trustworthy figure with that one.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Hey everybody. So I'm going to give you a little talk, and to start it I'm going to talk about a few diseases, and I'm just going to name them all. And I know what's going to come to your mind is how awful they are. So just hold on. So first off, there is tetanus, there's varicella, there's polio, there's the flu, and the mumps. So all of these are miserable. And you might even have run-ins with them. But in reality, they're all preventable with vaccinations. And the thing about vaccinations, it might be the first thing that comes to your mind is that a lot of people are refusing them. And this has all originated in the 1800s when there was a smallpox vaccination. And it was the idea that the government regulated it. They wanted everyone to be safe, so they said, you have to have this vaccination. And of course, when the government says you have to have something, you will always have a sect of people who say, well, we don't want it. So that was the origin of the anti-vaccination movement. And as we've progressed to the future, we've come up with a whole another line of excuses as to why you shouldn't get a vaccination. And I've been on the front line of this because I do work in healthcare, and vaccinations are one of the major preventative measures that we offer. And it's all to make sure that you don't come back to us too fast or with something that could be very, very serious. And I am just amazed with all the excuses I do run into. The most popular is, I will get sick. And then there is, I don't want my child to have autism. And I don't have the time or the money for it. And finally, well, I don't get sick anyways, so I really don't need a vaccine. And although I know you've probably heard of these too, or maybe even used them, that's not bad. It just means that it sprouts from a lack of education. And that's what I'm here for. So today I'm just going to educate you on why each of these excuses really doesn't make sense. And I'll refute it with the idea that you should get a vaccination. So first let's talk about I'll get sick. So there's two types of vaccines. There's a live and an inactivated. And while the inactivated is kind of common sense, it's a dead disease, the live is what really scares people because they think they're getting a live disease put into them, which seems like a very logical way to get the disease. But in reality, it's been genetically modified so that you won't get it. It's a very weak version, and it's just there to make sure you develop antibodies. And so while you won't get sick with the disease, you might feel some other symptoms. So you might have soreness, swelling or reddening at the site because you did get punctured by a needle. You might have a low-grade fever, or you might actually get to the disease because with an example of flu, the vaccine is just a preventative measure that they've modified it from last year's variety. So now you're getting one that they predict will be that year. But the good news is if you do get the flu, it'll be a moderate to minimal version, which is very preferable to the serious flu, which can knock you out of work or social life for weeks. So all of this sounds really good. And you might be asking yourself, why would a parent ever say no to protecting their child? That's usually one of their base instincts. But with vaccines, people have been miseducated. They've been told that autism and vaccinations are correlated, and in reality, they're not. And this was all started with the Wakefield article, and the Wakefield article was a bribed article with proof that said, if your child is vaccinated with an MMR, which is measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, they have a higher chance of developing autism. And in 2010, this article was retracted, which means that's no longer in the system, which means that it was proven that his evidence was fraudulent. But a lot of times people aren't kept up to date with journal articles. They're kept up to date by magazines and by public opinion, which is why it's pervaded into today's society. And I think a major key to helping children and vaccinations is education. I think we have to not only educate as healthcare workers, but as friends, as families, as people who care about our grandchildren, our children, our nieces, our nephews. We have to be that voice that says maybe you should research it a little bit more, and hopefully that will help us to increase the MMR vaccination rates and help to protect the next generation. So as we grow up, though, we have more complications of everyday life. We have time and money, all very strict resources that we guard. So you have time. It's hard to get into a clinic, but it's not hard to get into a CVS, a Walgreens, a Walmart, where 10 to 30 minutes you're done. And usually they will give you an incentive, like $10 for a meal there, or they'll give you a coupon, $20, 20% off. And that is a great motivator. And rather than getting your coffee in the morning, you can just go get your vaccine and protect yourself for months on end. It's a great investment. And then also with money, even if you're uninsured, a vaccine will cost you at max $100, which is great. Because when you compare that to a whooping cough episode, which can be up to $10,000, it's a drastic difference. It's a great investment in your health, in your future, in your wallet, and it's just a logical choice after you look at the amounts. So also you have the idea that you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting the people around you. You're protecting people who can't get vaccines, the people who have cancer, the people who have AIDS, the people who are too young to get them. Your infant nephew, your infant niece, they can't get vaccinated yet. So you're protecting them. You're saving lives when you get vaccinated. You're creating a herd mentality, which is something the U.S. Department of Health and Human Resources says. And I think that's a great motivator to get vaccinated. And then finally, I have only one final question for you. Why should you get vaccinated? Well, you don't want to get sick. You want to keep your children healthy. You want to invest your time and money wisely. And finally, you want to save lives, because who doesn't? So I hope you can use this information wisely in not only your vaccination choices, but in maybe helping someone else make the right choice. Do vaccinate and not wait. Okay. Not the best one.
Very nice. So